This is Laws of Exponents Part 2, so we're going back to the foldable that we started working on the other day. As you can see, we are on page 3, and the heading is Product of Powers, and that's when you multiplying with the same base. So as a first example, we have a to the m times a to the n. That can also be written as a to the m plus n. So let me explain further. So down here we have other examples, 2 to the 5th and 2 to the 8th. So we can write that as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So that's 5 2's. And then we're going to multiply that by 8 2's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So really what we have here is 5 2's all being multiplied by each other. Then we have another 8. When we add all those together, we have how many 2's altogether? We have 13, which is the same thing as 2 to the 5th plus 8. So 2 to the 5 plus 8 power, so that would be 2 to the 13th. Another example, so we have a to the 4th, b to the 5th, a to the negative 6th. So if we have a to the 4th, we can say a to the 4 minus 6, and then b to the 5th. Then we can simplify. 4 minus 6 is negative 2, so a to the negative 2. Then we have b to the 5th, and we know that that is the same thing as b to the 5th over a squared. We learned that in our last video. On page 4, we have power of a power, and that's where you take a to the n to the m. So that would be the same thing as writing out a to the n times m. So before we had m plus n, now we're multiplying because we are taking the power of a power. As an example, so we have y to the 3rd to the 3rd. So that would be the same thing as y to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, which is really y, 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 y. So how many y's do we have there? We really have 9. So y to the 9th power. Now we could have done that without writing them all out and just seen 3 times 3, and that would have given us 9. So we're going to do this again. So now we have x to the 2 times negative 4, and then we have x to the 5th. So 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, so we have x to the negative 8, and we have x to the 5th. We know we can add those together, so x to the negative 8 plus 5, we are left with x to the negative 3, which according to our first day's video is 1 over x to the 3rd. So on page 5, we have the product of a power. With the product of a power, it's almost as if you are distributing the power to everything inside. So we're going to have a to the n, and then b to the m times n. So some examples. If we go down here, we're going to take the 3 and we're going to distribute it. So we're going to end up with a negative 3 to the 3rd. We're also going to have b to the 2 times 3. We know negative 3 to the 3rd is really negative 27. And then b to the 2 times 3, which is 6. So that's our answer. And then we're going to go down here. So negative 3 squared. Distribute the 2 to everything inside the parentheses. So we're distributing it 4 times. So we end up with negative 3 squared, b to the 2 times 2. This is a really long problem. C squared, d squared, and then we have 4 squared, b squared, c squared. So if we take negative 3 squared, that's going to give us 9. And then if we have b to the 2 times 2, that's b to the 4th, c squared, d squared. We're multiplying that by 4 squared, which is 16. And then b squared, c squared. And then we multiply that all together, 9 times 16, because I'm going to take my two numbers there, and I'm going to multiply them together, and I end up with 144. And I have b to the 4 plus 2, c to the 2 plus 2, and d squared, which is really 144, b to the 6th, c to the 4th, d squared. That is it for Laws of Exponents Part 2, and you're going to have Laws of Exponents Part 3 tomorrow. Thank you.